Step into a journey where every step is packed with purpose, insight, and empowerment. This is Walk with Wisdom with your host, Genevieve Wisdom. Walk with Wisdom is a dynamic podcast series designed for men and women 40 and over who are ready to embrace their best years yet. Life at this stage isn't about slowing down. It's about leveling up. Each episode is a walkthrough guide to mastering life's transitions, rediscovering passions, and thriving physically, mentally, and emotionally. We bring you expert advice, real-life stories, and actionable strategies to help you stride confidently into a future of vitality and fulfillment. So now, please welcome the host of Walk with Wisdom, Genevieve Wisdom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom, and welcome to Walk with Wisdom, a lifestyle show on youthful aging, which is looking great and feeling amazing as you age, while persevering for those things that you may have thought of in your younger years. I love that so many of you have already been really faithful in following the show. We really appreciate it. And we also thank you for your feedback. So follow us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching us live right now. And of course, don't forget that we're on all the podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give a thumbs up. And of course, subscribe to Bold Brave TV. That way you can get the updates on our show. Now, let's get right into it. This week's show is about you. It's about you because you have given us so much feedback. Thank you again, everyone who do the comments on the live. And thank you for to those of you who email after the fact. And thank you for those of you who listen after the fact and give a thumbs up. I compile all that information because as you get to know, like, and trust me and my guests, the feedback you give me is invaluable. So, this show, we thought we would go deeper on some of the things that we introduced because you asked. And so, we have the amazing Bruce Pollock back with us today. He's going to be with me for the entire show. Hi, Bruce.
Hey Genevieve, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. Great to see you yet again. So, Bruce, let me
Good to be
introduce
here.
today's show more in detail while you're with me. So, we've gotten a lot of feedback from the guests, and they really love the intros that we've given them. But as you know, everything that we've done can be complicated from the hormonal cascade, which I think is one of your, you do it better than anyone else. Everyone, Bruce talks about hormones, hormonal cascade, which we go through menopause and menopause better than anyone else. And so a lot of the listeners, viewers asked for you to come back and go deeper. I asked you, and you said absolutely, Genevieve. So thank you for that. I'm just going to reintroduce you a bit, just so everyone remembers who you are. So Bruce, um, well, I'll tell them a little bit more. I'll go deeper on our relationship. I've known Bruce for almost 2 decades. Bruce, can you imagine? Time flies when you're getting younger. Right? Oh my goodness. So I've known Bruce Pollock for almost 2 decades. He's a homeopath, businessman, and he has many decades of coaching and counseling people on integrative health protocols. So he's a nutraceutical expert, and not unlike myself, we know how to help to put those together. If you have a referral with on the pharmaceutical side, etc. So it's all about integration. And why I love Bruce more than anything else is I have seen people come to you, Bruce, when they've gone everywhere else, and you've taken what they have, taken the complicated, made it simple, and they get a change on their symptoms. So thank you for being here, and thank you for helping us walk with wisdom through menopause and menopause. So today we are going to focus primarily on your hormonal health cascade. Now, Bruce, I have a question on that. Is that mainly for girls?
No, absolutely. It works the same way for men. You have to deal with it differently, but you have the same problems when you start getting stressed. It's still high cholesterol or cortisol. Sorry, high cortisol still causes leaky gut. But in as we go through this, I'll suggest a few things for men as opposed to women.
Fantastic. So, what we're going to do, everyone, is just jump right into it. Bruce, I will let you start and let us know how you want to lead us today on the hormonal cascade in menopause. Menopause.
Absolutely. Well, I brought some slides, and we might as well start with slide one. Now, for those of
Yes.
you who are watching this on their phones, slide one is not going to show up that big. So I'll go into a little detail and talk about it. The next slide, please. There we go. So what you're seeing is this just the normal healthy hormonal cascade. Hormones all start with cholesterol. They convert to pregnenolone. Then they convert to DHEA, which separates into testosterone and estrogen. And that's down the right-hand side of the picture. On the left-hand side, you see progesterone, and then another line going down to aldosterone. This is a perfectly healthy, natural hormonal cascade system right now. The next slide, if you could switch slides. This slide, now you're seeing the red, and you're seeing the pregnenolone going to progesterone, and then down to cortisol. So this is when we start getting stressed out. Our cortisol levels go up. And if you think about this, this is a survival instinct for us because this would be the saber-toothed tiger jumps out of the woods and you have to be able to take off and run while it's tracking you. So you need that cortisol to just have the energy to keep running. So you've hit fight flight mode here. You need to either run or fight. So this is the situation. But this is right now we're looking at sort of an acute situation. Could be you're going into exams, high school to university exams. You're in university, you're going to exams. You're starting to get a little anxiety, you're starting to get a little sleeplessness, but it's not true cortisol, it's not true adrenal issues yet. You've just got high cortisol. So the next
Right.
slide, if we go to the next slide, now we're starting to get into more of a chronic situation. And you'll see that down below the cortisol now, we have insulin resistance. And from that, we have weight gain because people say, why do I gain weight when I'm under stress? Well, your body goes insulin resistant. Also, high cortisol causes leaky gut. On the left-hand side, on the far left-hand side, the aldosterone stops being fed because everything is going to the cortisol because remember, fight, flight. So the aldosterone is not being fed, and this controls the sodium-potassium balance in your body through the kidneys. So you fill up with sodium. Now again, if you're running for your life, this is a good thing because you've got those minerals there you can sweat out and keep healthy and keep going. But in our situation, we don't sweat them out, and we get put on water weight. So we gain water weight from there. So now if we go to the next slide starts talking about the effects of the high cortisol on the leaky gut. But before we go there, your progesterone is converting to cortisol to keep you alive because your body doesn't have eyes. It's again, I think you're running for the saber-toothed tiger. So you're low on progesterone at this point, and progesterone is a calming hormone for your brain to help you sleep and to not send fight flight messages to your adrenals. So without it, you're not sleeping very well. Plus, you're sending these fight flight messages because you're not very calm at this point. And some of the side effects of high cortisol is anxiety and waking up in the middle of the night or several times in the middle of the night. Often people will say, I wake up every morning at 4 o'clock. Well, if you wake up every morning at 4 o'clock and you have anxiety, the odds are you have high cortisol. So from there, we'll just sort of talk about a few things here that we didn't really go into detail with the last time we talked about this. Um,
Absolutely. And Bruce, let me just jump in one moment here. Um, and I know I'm getting comments, and primarily the ladies. A lot of us wake up in the middle of the night, and I know that I have it, and you have had that. When I say have it, have ladies, and do you see that with the guys? Do the guys have that same kind of cascade when the cortisol is high at night, so they're waking up early? Do the guys have it as much as the women, especially over 40?
Absolutely not. men, because we compartmentalize the way we think, as opposed to attach every experience
Emotion?
to, emo- to an emotion, we can close the box on them a lot easier than the ladies can. So we tend not to be affected that way. Although,
Yes.
after saying that, I've been in a few situations where I've been so stressed I have been waking up at night. I have had the anxiety. So it can happen, but not at the same level that'll happen to a woman. So
Right.
yes, it can happen, but you don't have, with a man, you don't have to wait to get there before you start feeding them adrenal stuff, So
Absolutely. And everyone, we are going to talk about some of the things that you can do for that. But right now, we're just having a conversation. Bruce's slides are phenomenal with the cascade. I just thought I'd jump in on something that I know is always, always a thing. And it is with me. That's why the show is called Walk with Wisdom. You're walking with me through this journey. But you know what? We're going to get better at the end. And we have many protocols that we've put together, we've narrowed it down that will get results. So, thank you, Bruce, for explaining the cortisol and really the differences between men and women. Now, I have one other question, a question actually that came up with one of our valued viewers is so why does it seem to get worse 40 and over? And so I would love to hear your take on that. And when I say why does it seem to get worse, the entire hormonal cascade, but specifically the cortisol, can you speak to that? Why it's not following the healthy hormonal chart that you started out with? Why does it break down over time?
Well, there's a number of reasons. One is we tend to get more stressed as we get older. Um, we have the
Right.
kids, we have the job, we have, God forbid, the divorce. All these things build up over time, and we start getting stressed in our 20s. By the time we're 50s, if we're not handling it every single day, which none of us honestly really have time to, now you've got 30 years worth of stress that's been building up in your body, and your body is starting to reflect that more and more with the high cortisol and the adrenals and that sort of thing. So that's the easy answer. The other answer is inflammation, because inflammation gets worse because our digestion tract tends to get worse. And that kind of leads me where I was going to go next, actually, is into the digestion tract.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
we tend to think about the gut as the acid bath. Let's not. Let's think of the gut from the mouth down to the anus. Everything included is the gut. And when we're talking about leaky gut, which is where we're going next, we'll be talking mostly about the small intestine, which is very long but very narrow. Thus, the small intestine. We're going to be talking about good flora and good bacteria and how the gut is 80% of our immune system and that sort of thing. So follow along, and hopefully I can make this clear. So we have we have about 6 pounds of bacteria in our digestion tract. And
Yeah.
this bacteria, if it's good, we have a healthy gut. If it's poor, we have a poor gut. We don't have a healthy gut. Our gut is 80% of our immune system. And what happens is when something comes into a virus or that kind of thing, a pathogen, the good bacteria builds a wall between it and the wall of the gut. So it stops it from going through. If it can't kill it outright, it stops it from going through. So we need this good bacteria. The good bacteria also eats fiber. You all know about fiber, but it eats fiber, creates short chain fatty acids, which creates the mucosal immune system, which is a layer that stops everything from going through again to the bloodstream. So we have all this activity going on. Hopefully, we have enough good bacteria to keep this going. And yeah, I repeat myself. I'm sorry, but 80% of our immune system is this good bacteria. So it's very, very important. Now we go back to cortisol and we make the connection. If you have high cortisol, it causes leaky gut, and there's several ways it does this. Cortisol affects the short chain fatty acids, which I mentioned before, which means your mucosal immune system gets dropped, and so you're not making that mucus anymore to keep the bad bacteria away as you should be. Secondly, cortisol creates more zonulins, and zonulins is a cool name. I feel like I'm on Star Trek whenever I say zonulin. But anyway, zonulins control the tight junction, which could be a Star Trek thing as well. They
Yeah.
control the tight junctions between the cell walls of our gut because our gut has to open up to permit the nutrients go through the bloodstream. But if it opens up too much, now you're letting all the bad things in your gut in. And so high cortisol creates more zonulin, so it's opening up way too much, letting way too much into your bloodstream. The third way is because your body is in flight motion, in flight fight, this red line going from progesterone to cortisol, your body thinks you're being chased by that saber-toothed tiger. It's not worried about your digestion. It's not putting any energy at all into digesting the food you're eating. So you're getting undigested, and I don't mean, again, sandwiches, but you're getting molecules of unbroken down food going into your lower digestion tract or your small intestine, which causes hyperinflammation, which causes leaky gut. So these three reasons, the cortisol now, you have bad digestion, you have leaky gut, which leads us into what happens when you have leaky gut. Now you have all these things in your gut going into your bloodstream that aren't supposed to be there. And this causes inflammation. And this undigested food, these pathogens, some of them, the pathogens can cross the blood-brain barrier, which cause you inflamed brain. Um, this slows
Absolutely.
your brain down. You ever woke up and you just say, wow, I just feel dull today? Inflamed brain. And the microglia in the brain start trimming the brain off, thinking it's unhealthy, when in fact it's just inflamed and not functioning correctly. So you have your
Bruce,
brain.
Bruce, just one moment. One moment, Bruce. I had to jump in because I had a couple of comments about brain and brain fog. Now, everyone, Bruce can't see the comments, but I can. So when I jump in, Bruce is gracious enough to let me jump in because I can make a comment and it's more meaningful because we're doing it in real time. So brain fog seems to be a thing that's very, very common. And so when you mentioned about leaky gut and things that we don't want crossing the blood brain barrier, now we're getting brain fog. And so we're going to talk about a way, everyone, because people are wondering, what do we do? We're going to talk about that later. Bruce is just really showing the cascade of how it goes from hormone to gut to brain fog to sleeplessness. He's really going deeper and tying that all in together. And this is actually a really good time for me just to wrap up this slide for you, Bruce, because we are going to take a short break coming up. And then when you come back, where were you going next with this between the leaky gut and the brain fog, etc., Bruce?
Inflammation.
Inflammation. Oh my goodness. Okay, everyone, please make a comment and don't forget to email wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. Wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. Dan will put it up under my picture. Bruce and I, the emails just go to one place to make it easier for you. Because that way, if you have any questions specific to you, because remember, we're all a little bit different, Bruce and I are absolutely happy and willing to have a complimentary consultation to talk to you about it. So, inflammation, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom, and welcome back to Walk with Wisdom. This is a lifestyle show on youthful aging, and today we have the great Mr. Bruce Pollock, who is breaking down hormones for us, breaking down the stages of perimenopause. Bruce, I had to bring that up just quickly. Perimenopause, perimenopause. We never leave the men out because we all change as we get younger, as I like to call it. And that peri stage is 10 to 15 years before the real thing happens. So for women, it's easy. It's a cessation of menses over a year. You're in menopause. Men, Bruce, I'm going to leave that to you eventually. We're going to get to explaining what that looks like for men, how they know that they're really going through the official name is andropause and just everything going down. Going through everything going down with their hormones. So, my number one thing that happened to me with going through this stage and having all my hormones go down is inflammation. So
Hmm.
glad you brought that up, Bruce. And this week, everyone, Bruce is going deeper. So we started with the gut, the liver. He introduced the hormonal cascade. He went through all the slides. Now he's going to go deeper. Bruce, take us away on inflammation and help us.
Okay, so now we have the high cortisol. It's upset the digestion tract as we just went through. Now we're getting all these things dropped into our bloodstream. And so our body reacts to this, and this is what causes the inflammation, is our body trying to wipe it all out and get it out of our body. So now we have a cascade of inflammation. I think I mentioned this once, but I had a lady come in and she says, I have a sore wrist. And I said, well, what else is wrong? She says, well, now that you mention, I got tennis elbow, my shoulders are sore, my hips are sore, my knees are sore. And I said to her, well, how's your digestion? She says, oh, not very good. So I put her on a digestion protocol as opposed to curcumin or an anti-inflammatory. And within a month, all the pain had gone away. So we're talking real pain here, but what happens is some of these particles get into the joints, and of course your body attacks the particles, and now you've got issues. Now you have joint problems, this kind of thing. So
Absolutely. Bruce, I have to jump in here as well. And I know you and I had talked about this, and everyone, although this show is for youthful aging, Bruce and I talked about how important it was for us to take care of our gut, and we have these symptoms even younger. And I know, even though a lot of our private coaching and counseling group, or whether we do it, in a pharmacy setting, although a lot of the patients and clients are over 40, a lot are also under 40. And I just had someone talk to me about pain in the elbow. Is this a thing? But pain in the elbow, pain down the back. And so, what would you recommend for someone like that? So, I'm gathering for two, the question to go with your inflammation is two part. I gather that is inflammation, even though this person is in their late 20s, early 30s, and would now be a great time to do some of the nutraceuticals and the protocols we're going to be talking about to help to prevent it getting worse later.
yeah, absolutely connect it. See if you can connect it to a food you ate. I had a friend who said, I don't hurt when I'm fasting, but I hurt when I eat. That's digestion. It's just that clear, because if you're
Wow.
fasting, you don't have all the food going into your bloodstream, right? So if you can connect it to meals or a specific type of food, it's definitely gut related. Sometimes you just bang your elbow and it's elbow,
Of
but
course.
if there's no reason for it, generally it's going to be a gut related problem. So yeah, I would definitely, if they didn't pull their back and the pain comes and goes, it's probably connected to the food they're eating, or just the fact they're eating
Absolutely.
food and it's going to the bloodstream, not even necessarily the type of food. So yeah,
Well,
especially a
thank
come
you,
and
Bruce.
go. Like it comes and goes. Those are a good giveaway too. So um, so to connect this now, to connect this back to cortisol. Remember, cortisol for the progesterone is feeding the cortisol. So you're low progesterone at this point because you're feeding the cortisol to fight flight. Well, once you get inflammation, cortisol is an anti-inflammatory. So cortisol is going to come out to try to bring the inflammation in your body down. So if you have leaky gut, you have high cortisol. If you have high cortisol, you have leaky gut. If you have leaky
Wow.
gut, you have an inflamed brain,
Bruce,
and
can you
on it
repeat
goes.
that? Bruce, I needed to repeat that, and here's why. I know, and remember, I'm getting the comments. Thank you for keeping the comments going. But I had an email actually just this morning, because there's so much information out there, and everyone, what Bruce and I try to do is take the complicated and make it simple. And I think, based on your feedback, we do it well. I just needed to repeat that again. It's kind of like a feedback switch. If you have one, you have the other. If you have the other, you have one. Could you repeat that? Because people are Googling and not understanding that it's interrelated and what came first.
Absolutely. First, though, I want to say I am simplifying this.
Yes,
There are thousands and thousands of papers written on leaky gut, high cortisol, all that sort of thing. So this is
absolutely.
simple. Thanks for mentioning that. All right. So, as I say, high cortisol uh, drains your progesterone, so it puts you off balance hormonally. Then all your food, all the prolanolone is feeding the progesterone, and it's not worried about anything else. It's just trying to keep you alive. So you're low in progesterone, you're high in cortisol. It's causing leaky gut. Leaky gut is putting things into your bloodstream that don't belong there. Your body attacks it. Inflammation. Inflammation causes high cortisol. So you get more cortisol to try to fight the inflammation that's being caused by the leaky gut. So it is very circular. And as you said, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, the high cortisol or the leaky gut? You
Right.
know, I also hear people say, "Oh, I'm going on vacation. I don't need to take anything for my adrenals." Well, your adrenals are undernourished, so you're taking your undernourished adrenals with you. You're
Yes,
not,
exactly.
you may not be in a stressful situation, but you're still taking the problem with you. So don't think a 2 week vacation is going to heal this problem that you've been working at for 20, 25, 30 years, right? You need to nourish the adrenals and you need to heal the
Absolutely.
because it won't heal on its own. You need to heal the gut. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, that, and then if we just go to the final slide, if you would, the next slide, back one,
Yeah.
that one, that's one we're looking for. Now, we've talked about the progesterone, the cascade of inflammation, and all that down the progesterone side, but we didn't talk about the DHEA side. So we're going to do that for now. So the pregnenolone in a healthy body, remember, go back to our original slide, it feeds the DHEA, which feeds testosterone, the estrogen, and the thyroid through the hypothalamus pituitary axis. So now, because the pregnenolone is feeding the progesterone, it's not feeding the DHEA. So you're not getting the testosterone you need, women, the testosterone you need. And that causes low libido. And you're not getting the estrogen you need, yet you're still estrogen dominant because you have more estrogen than progesterone. So you're still having
Yeah.
this estrogen dominant situation, although you're not having much estrogen in your body. And then the final thing that happens is you're not feeding the thyroid. So what I see happen a lot with doctors is they put people on progesterone and thyroid, which is great because you need progesterone and you need to support the thyroid, no argument. But they're not going to the cause of the problem, and that's the adrenals, which are causing the high cortisol, which is causing low progesterone, which is causing, and the cascade goes on. So when you're thinking about this, you need to think about the whole picture. But you were asking earlier about men and women. So
Yes.
if you're not on progesterone already and you feel like you're low in progesterone, which is you're not sleeping well, you're not calm, wired and tired is a good expression. Vitex converts to progesterone. It's also called chasteberry, which by the way it's called chasteberry because the monks used to eat it back in the day, so they could say chaste because you lose your libido eating progesterone, having too much progesterone as a man. So women,
Bruce, I
Vitex
didn't
is a
know
really
that.
yeah. So the
Now I
things
know.
the things that are
Makes
filled
sense.
my brain the things my brain is filled with. So in a man's situation, is instead of doing the Vitex, they would do a really good multi B, and a multi B would bring them would calm them down in a similar fashion that Vitex would do for women. But don't give
Excellent.
Vitex to a man. So
Don't give
multi
Vitex, man. Don't take Vitex. And I'm going to jump in here a little bit, Bruce. When you're talking about the estrogen dominant condition, that's something that I know. there's buzz, there's word on the street about estrogen dominance in both men and women. And I'm gonna just maybe just change it up a bit and just ask, what are some of just some simple things that tends to cause estrogen dominance in women? Now, I know, of course, we're going through that hormonal change, and you just mentioned it. That was a really good explanation. If you could just explain that again for us ladies, because I had a couple of questions on that. So, just explain again about the progesterone and still having estrogen, but it's not the estrogen we need. So, we're estrogen dominant. I'll get you to re explain that. But also, can you talk about the men? Thank you for telling us about the monks, because now I know. But if can
Mhm.
you explain about the men when we've heard out there that males now are estrogen dominant, like what's going on and why that happens?
All right. So the first one is to just talk about what I've said. I'll just say it a little differently.
Yes, yes, please.
Remember, we're running for our lives. So our hormonal system is there to keep us alive. So it's most of our hormones are being fed to progesterone to keep the cortisol up because our bodies believe we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger or by an army of enemies or whatever the situation may be. But this is because our lives are so stressful. You know,
Yeah,
we had, I think I said before, we had like 40,000 bits of information in the 60s come at us. Now we have over 500,000 bits of information coming at us because of our little phones and the TVs. If you
right,
watch a commercial, every 3 seconds there's a cut to another scene. Well, your brain has to keep up with that. We're designed to run about 15 kilometers an hour, the very fastest. Yet we drive at 100 kilometers an hour, don't even think about it. And we have people going by us at 100 kilometers an hour. Put that together, 200 kilometers an hour, and our brain has to take all that in. Plus, you've got the stress of the day that you never had before, and you include our diet. So you've got all that. So, and our body, our poor body, is just trying to survive this stressful situation, which we call life, and we don't even think about anymore. This isn't natural. It's been created through all this mechanical age we're in, and of course we do a lot more. We perform a lot more because we've got the computers and we've got all these things that make us more efficient, which means we work harder and we have to focus more. So our body is trying to keep us alive. So it's feeding the progesterone to the cortisol because, again, the cortisol is there to keep us running from the saber-toothed tiger because we're in this fight flight mode. Because of that, it's not feeding the DHA properly because it doesn't care about the DHE side because
right,
that's not life or death. The
exactly,
cortisol is life or death, right? It's we've got to keep moving, we've got to keep moving, we've got to keep moving. So the cortisol is life or death if the body in the body's mind. So it's not feeding the DHEA. So without the DHEA being fed correctly, I mean, some is getting through. Don't get me wrong, we wouldn't survive without it, but not enough to be healthy. So
right,
the three things the DHEA take care of is one, testosterone, and number two is estrogen, and number three is the thyroid. So if you're low on we're low on estrogen because it's just not getting fed, but because we're so low on progesterone, we're still estrogen dominant because the estrogen is compared to the progesterone. So without the progesterone, we have
absolutely,
estrogen dominance. Now,
absolutely. Bruce, one moment. We're actually coming up to a break, which is actually a really good time because then we can just start on the men when you come back. But everyone, I know that that just clarified for me, especially as girls, you hear about at this stage, Bruce, with estrogen, obviously, especially perimenopause, menopause, the estrogen goes, menses changes, but we're estrogen dominant. Your explanation, again, is the best that I have heard to explain how we can be estrogen dominant on one hand and be low on the other. And but we have solutions. We're going to take a break, a short word from our sponsors, and Bruce will come back and he'll talk about how men can be estrogen dominant. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom. I'm here with Bruce Pollock today. Welcome back to Walk with Wisdom, a lifestyle show on youthful aging. And we're talking hormones. Bruce, you have done a phenomenal job giving us a foundation from how the gut and the liver affects the symptoms we're going through with that hormonal change. That was a hot flash, Bruce, but I know you know because I'm not the only woman who's been fanning herself and go, help! Oh my goodness. So we left on inflammation. By the way, everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe, share the link, set your reminders. Um, and of course, if you want to go deeper, because this is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it, Bruce? It's just, we're just talking in general. You're
Mhm.
really making it so that everybody can catch it, but everybody's an individual. Please don't hesitate. Email wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. Now, Bruce and I are happy to do complimentary coaching sessions because you've been watching the show. We're glad to do that to give back and say thank you. Also, some of the supplements that we're going to talk about, Bruce, I'm sure I'll be able to give a gift to our viewers. So let's talk about, is it inflammation and men, or is it estrogen dominance in men? I think we start with the estrogen and go to inflammation.
Yeah, two separate issues. Definitely, estrogen is an issue now with all of us, and estrogen dominance is an issue with all of us. Estrogen is
Yes.
just so prevalent in our world today that it's hard not to be estrogen dominant. You can spot it in men, the men breasts, the dad gut, estrogen
Mhm.
dominance. Um, that doesn't mean every guy who has a gut is estrogen dominant, by the way, but you can see it in men, and even things like beer are highly estrogen dominant. The prefabricated foods that we eat are estrogen. A lot of the sprays we use in the house, a lot of the soaps we use, excuse me, a lot of the soaps we use cause estrogen dominant. So it's really difficult not to be estrogen dominated in our society. We'd almost have to walk back to the woods to get away from it. It's so prevalent in our society. So yeah,
Perfect. And it's funny you should mention that because I am just grateful for you as a guest, and we have another valued guest that will be coming on talking about the household things that we have and how it can cause a disruption on this hormonal cascade that affects us later on. So thank you, Bruce, for mentioning that. Now, inflammation and the inflamed brain, for instance, you're talking about high cortisol and all of that. Does it look the same in men and women?
that does. The inflamed brain is the inflamed brain, absolutely. But again,
Yeah.
uh, it'll women tend to be more aware of it than men. We don't. This is general, and I stress that. But men don't tend to be that in touch with their bodies and their functions. They just sort of get up and carry on with their day and don't think about it. They're not that sensitive to their bodies. So women tend to notice it more, although it's the same with men.
Absolutely. And everyone, thank you for mentioning that, Bruce. That's why I have Bruce and Bruce has been so gracious. He loved what we're doing here. He loves the discussions we're having. And he said, Genevieve, I'll come alongside you and give a male perspective because I didn't want to leave the men out, Bruce. I don't think it's fair. We all go through changes. And I think we should just have a really honest, real discussion.
Mhm.
That's one thing I wanted to do with this podcast is just be real. We have a lot of things that's being called real, and we know it ain't. So this is truly real. We're talking about men and women, what we go through, and again, we can start early to help prevent a lot of these symptoms so they may not be as adverse when we get older. And I think you're gonna talk about some of those things we can do, Bruce.
I am, but first I'm going to make an unabashed plug for next week. We haven't talked
Oh,
about this audio. So sorry about this, but next week we have a fellow coming on board who knows about men andropause, and it's going to be really exciting. I'm looking so forward to hearing him. He's been a friend of mine for years and years and years, and so you want detail on andropause, you want to know what men are going through and how they feel. Tune in next week. It's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. And thank you, Bruce, for jumping in with that because I was going to mention it as well. Now is as good a time as any. And the entire show, Bruce also agreed to come back. The entire show will be about men. So we won't be jumping back and forth. We will have this expert on men's health and we can put it all together.
And ladies, please tune in. There's not a lot of information out there about what men go through andropause. Please tune in. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Thank you, Bruce. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, one of the things that and remember, this show is going deeper on what we've introduced before because it's a lot of information. And although we've made it in bite size, the bite is still pretty big. So we kind of threw out the different levels of symptomology in menopause and menopause. That's my name. It's andropause. It's just our decrease in hormones. And Bruce knew me. If you didn't see the shows, by the way, everyone go back and look at the last three shows. But I think three shows back, Bruce interviewed me about my walk through this, which is why we're doing this. And that's when we decided we'll put together protocols to help. And they're called mild, medium, hot, picante, meaning every level you have more things to deal with and you may need to stack those supplements. When I started, I talked about stacking. Now, it's not just supplements, it's lifestyle hygiene. We know that. But today, specifically, we're going to just talk about a few of the things that will help to decrease the symptomology from a gut and liver and hormonal. And Bruce, can you lead us on that, please?
Absolutely. Well, we talked about the gut before and what to take and glutamine. Um, I really like and again unabashed plug Designs for Health. It's a fabulous, fabulous product. They're just really good quality. We had Gary on a couple of weeks ago to talk about it. They make a GI Revive that if you take this just short term, it'll it'll heal your digestion tract from the inside out, as he likes to say. It's an amazing product. They also make glutamine, which I would say continue with after your gut's been healed, because glutamine will maintain that health of your gut. It brings the cells together. It helps with the mucosal layer. All those things that GI Revive will do as well. Um, as well, I think that you need to think about a probiotic, a really good
Yeah.
probiotic. And I'll leave that one for Genevieve to talk about. But that leads us into the thing we haven't talked about, and that's adrenals. We haven't mentioned how to feed the adrenals. Now,
Right.
if you feel that you're in a chronic adrenal, a chronic cortisol situation, this fight and flight situation. You're in anxiety all the time. You wake up every night. You wake up in the morning. You're full of energy, but you crash around 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
That's
or
me.
you're
That
just or even worse is you're dragging your butt out of bed every morning. Every morning's a Monday morning, I say.
wow.
These are adrenal issues. So you want to feed the adrenals. And there's a really good complex again by Designs for Health, and it's adrenal complex. It's called, and it's got adrenal cortex in it, meaning it's got actual adrenal in it. And as the Chinese say, you eat the organ that you're weak in. Well, they've got this cortex in here, and this is an amazing product. It's got a bunch of other things into. I won't go into a lot of detail about it. Designs also make a multi B. And I think that if you're not taking a good multivitamin, you should be taking a multi B. B's keep you calm. B5 is really good for the adrenals. B6 is good for the hormones. So you want the whole base of vitamin B's if you're going to build stronger on some of them than other ones. So you just don't take B5, B6, you take a multi B and then you add that on top. So that's a really good
Absolutely.
idea. Now we're at about five products now. We're at adrenal product, a multi B. We've got the three gut, and again, if you're wired and tired, Vitex, one in the evening. And that's now we're starting to deal with the whole symptomology at this point. So that's where I would
Absolutely.
with supplements to begin with. That's as much as I would take for a while.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Bruce. And everyone, email wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. I can give Bruce and I, of course, together with Designs for Health, we're happy to give 15% off to get you started. I am actually redoing everything that I have done. And remember, Bruce and I have helped others, but I'm here now. It's very different when I'm going through it now, and I'm going to redo everything. And I'm going to start with these protocols that we're talking about. So, this would be on the mild level, it's foundational. And Bruce mentioned, of course, you might want to add a probiotic because it's really important. We talked about the gut health. So the L-glutamine, the probiotic, and what I like to add is a digestive enzyme, which you mentioned. But remember, everyone, I'm on the picante end of things. I've got a lot going on. So you do foundational things and then you stack it, you add. So I take a digestive enzyme with food because I know I need that extra to break the food down. And Bruce, tell us a little bit again about when you started out with this foundationally. You mentioned hydrochloric acid. Why is it important? And actually, DFH has a great digestive enzyme with it. Can you explain to our valued audience why that's so important?
Okay, first I'm going to talk about the enzyme though. Is
Yes,
remember I was saying when you're in fight flight mode, your body's not concerned about breaking down your food. So it's not creating those enzymes that your gut needs to break the food down. Generally, it's created by the pancreas. It gets injected just below the acid bath to break down the rest of the food in small intestine. Well, if that's not happening, as I said, you get hyperfermentation, and which causes a lot of problems. So when you're in this state, a digestive enzyme is a fabulous, fabulous idea. I think it's a great idea with every meal because you don't want
absolutely.
any food getting to the small intestine that isn't broken down because now you're going to cause a lot more problems. And I'm sorry, Genevieve, what was the question?
Oh, that was it. I just wanted you to talk about a digestive enzyme and just how low we are on hydrochloric acid.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
a quick um,
So
30 seconds.
hydrochloric acid is really a misunderstood thing. Generally, when people get acid reflux over 40, 45, they feel they have too much stomach acid. But I ask you, what chemical in our body do you get more of as we get older, right? There's hardly any. It's actually cortisol is
Exactly.
the only chemical that we get more. So we have less and less. And what happens is we get so little stomach acid that the sphincter doesn't close. That leads upward to our mouth, and thus we get what we call acid reflux because what's little left is able to come up. And this is why it's way worse at night when you lay down because now there's no gravity holding it to the bottom of your stomach. And you'll find that many seniors actually sleep on an angle so that the acid doesn't come up and they don't get burnt. So hydrochloric acid, it's mixed with betaine to keep it neutral till it hits the stomach. But it actually
Right.
fills your stomach up with stomach acid so that that sphincter says, "Oh, we've got stomach acid now. I can close." And this is how the natural way to solve acid reflux over 45 is. And while you're doing that, though, I do suggest taking diglyceride licorice. It's called DGL because it'll
DGL,
put
yeah.
that chewable DGL, because it'll put that mucal layer down your digestion tract. So if any acid comes up while you're filling it up, you don't burn yourself. So that
Fantastic.
I think everybody who says, "Well, it's when I have that spaghetti sauce or I have that glass of wine too much," or you're low in stomach acid. That's why that's happening, and it happens to me
Absolutely.
once in a while as well. And I always keep a bottle of HCl or betaine in the house for these situations.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bruce. Now we're going to take a break for sponsors. We'll be right back, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom. I'm here with Bruce Pollock. Welcome back to Walk with Wisdom, a lifestyle show on looking great and feeling amazing as we age. Bruce, you did a phenomenal job today going deeper on the hormonal cascade and really talking about the protocols that we have to help women primarily, but also men. Um, Feel better in the gut and help to alleviate some of those menopausal and menopausal symptoms. Do you have a 30-second wrap up on what we talked about today? Yeah, can be
Yes and no.
longer than
Okay, so
30
quickly,
seconds.
quickly. Um, if you find you have a lot of gas, you're burping, you're passing gas a lot. That's not natural. You have digestion problems, and so do these protocols. Help yourself out, and just remember, stress causes problems, and stress and gut are the two leading causes of most problems that we get in our body. So I say if you have gut problems, you got leaky gut, you're bringing toxins into your body. They don't belong there. If you have high cortisol, you've got low progesterone, which means your hormonal balance is off. Plus, you have leaky gut. You have leaky gut. You have high cholesterol. Your hormones are out of balance, and you have leaky gut. So the loop. It's just really important to keep all these things in consideration and deal with it. Don't let it go on because it will cause further harm down the road.
Absolutely. And again, everyone, wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. Wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. Bruce and I use that email. We are happy to give a complimentary consultation on your specific symptoms. Please like and subscribe. And if you like the show, share it with your friends and family, please, because it really allows us. I know Bruce and I love to delineate what we've learned or wisdom and knowledge. So please, let us know by like, subscribe, and emailing specifically. You will get 15% off the Designs for Health products, as well as a complimentary consultation with Bruce and I about what we've talked about so far, because you are different. We're all a little bit different still, right, Bruce? It's not a one size fits all. So
Absolutely.
yes, absolutely. Now, I wanted to just add something at the end of each show. We're going to talk about skin. And the reason being, those of you who know me and those of you who are getting to know me, when I started this show, and Bruce, you heard this as well, it's a show on youthful aging. It's talking about looking good and feeling amazing as we age. Now, when we're going through all these menopausal and menopausal symptoms, we get fine lines, inflammation, and stress shows up on our skin, doesn't it, Bruce?
Oh, absolutely. Every every rash, every eczema, every any of those things that haven't been caused by touching something and isn't caused by fungus is from digestion. So eczema
Yep,
is from digestion. The rashes are from digestion. All of these things. On so everything every when we have toxins in our bloodstream's trying to get rid of them, and our skin is one of the biggest cleansing organs we have. So it's pushing the toxins out our skin, and this is where we get a lot of the rashes and the eczemas from.
absolutely. And so I have an organic a line of skincare. It's called revive25skincare.com, revive25skincare.com. I have an apple stem cell cleanser, Bruce. I'm going to have to get it to you. We may be low on that stock, but I want you all just to go and check it out, because beauty from the outside, and I said that because of my fashion background, because this is what we see first. And going through what I'm going through with menopause, and not just me, all you ladies and gentlemen who come to us for consultation, if we look good, sometimes that's all we need. We need to look good and go, you know what? We're getting younger. I'm going to put on some good skincare. But this skincare actually goes with the nutraceuticals. So there's a toner or a refresher. It's a spray. It's called resveratrol, which is an antioxidant. It calms the skin down from the outside, will help to decrease the fine line, help to decrease that the breakouts, etc. But remember, you're going to pair this with a probiotic, with a digestive enzyme. You're going to take care of the gut from the inside. So I always want to mention a skincare product. Thank you all who know and love Revive 25. By the way, Bruce, we're going to have a show on skin, and we're going to talk about the hormones and skin. And I would love to have you there because I'd love a man's perspective.
I love beautiful skin, so it's a good deal.
There we go. There we go. Now, Bruce, we have about 30 seconds left. I thought it would be apropos for you to reintroduce next week's show and what we're going to talk about next week.
So I'm so excited. The gentleman we have coming on board has been in the industry for 35 years. He does his homework. He was with the people who are founding these companies that we buy our products from today. Um, it's just that he's amazing. He's an encyclopedia of wealth of knowledge. I go to him when I've got questions. So I'm just so excited to hear what he has to say. He's been a trainer, a fitness trainer. He was a martial artist. He's an athlete. Uh, it just I I'm just so excited. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Fantastic. And I go to him as well. And he's really going to focus on the men next week, an entire show dedicated to the men. And as Bruce said earlier, ladies, we know that we often watch and get things to help the men in our lives, son, husband, brother. Please email us wisdom@walkwithwisdom.ca. Thank you all so much for your support. We actually have people that have come back week after week, Bruce, and they've asked for you. So thank you for coming back. We look forward again to seeing you all next week.
This has been Walk with Wisdom with host Genevieve Wisdom. Tune in each week as Genevieve will present powerful guests who will inspire you to make every step count. Whether you're walking your dog, tackling your morning run, or enjoying a quiet moment with your headphones, Walk with Wisdom is your companion for redefining what it means to age powerfully and intentionally. Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. Powered by B2 Studios. Take the first step with us because wisdom isn't about what you've left behind. It's about everything that lies ahead.